Have the Pittsburgh Pirates grown in 2024? And is the record the be-all, end-all?
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. My name is Ethan Smith. You can follow me on Twitter right there at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates as it pertains to you as a lifelong fan, from a lifelong fan just like myself. Make sure to go to Prize Picks and download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. And newsflash, you don't even have to win to get your $50 when you sign up. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back to the show. As always, thank you for always tuning in to all of my everyday listeners. I absolutely love you. Will always love you, and will never stop loving you. And on today's show, I've seen some chatter lately, and I've even contributed to it a little bit, about the Pittsburgh Pirates, their record, where they sit, all of that stuff. And at this current moment, as I try to fix my hat here, at this current moment, the Pittsburgh Pirates sit at 70-76. That's where they are. That's the team that they are at this current moment. They are a 70-76 team, out of the wild card race pretty much. Nothing they can really do to fix that notion. And obviously a large part of that is what has happened since pretty much the beginning of August. And I see a lot of people, say, well, they're going, and I've said it, that they're going to have a better record this year than they had last year. And that's perfectly right. You are completely right. For the Pittsburgh Pirates to not have a better record than they had last year, that means they would have to only win 5 or 6 more games. Well, more than likely, they will win more than 5 or 6 games. You're looking at the series that they're going to have over the weekend, their final weekend home series. So make sure you use Game Time to get your tickets with that. 70-76, but you're going to be playing a Royals team that is one of the better teams in the American League, but as I usually say on this show, not a team that the Pirates should really be scared of at all. And then you look at playing St. Louis, a team that you've had mild success against this year, a team in Cincinnati that you haven't lost a series to this year. And then, of course, you still play Milwaukee, and then you still play the Yankees. There's not really a team on that schedule, folks, that you should look at and say the Pirates can't win 2 out of 3 games, or at least 2 games in those scenarios, especially this weekend. I mean, I think the Royals are a team that the Pirates can hang with because they've hung with everybody for the most part outside of the AL West, or the NL West, I apologize. They've done well against pretty much everybody else. And yes, they may end up having a better record than what they had in 2023, which, if some people forget, they were 76-86. And that's fine. But is it the be-all, end-all to say the team got better just because the record was better? I don't really think it is, in all seriousness. I think the team itself, the product, is much better than what we watched in 2023. You've added Joey Bart. You've added Aroldis Chapman. You've added Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, a better version of Luis Ortiz. You've even added a guy in Dennis Santana, who has been a very good pitcher out of the bullpen. You've added Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. You've added Brian De La Cruz. So, yeah, of course, they're a better team than what they've been. over the last 3 or 4 years or even last season. I think the main talking point and sticking point here with this, though, with this Pirates team, is where could they have been? Where could have they been? Where could they have been is the way I was trying to say it. Because really, I know it's easy to go back and look at this 10-game win or losing streak, and I do it a lot because, I mean, it quite literally is the straw in the haystack that the Pirates couldn't find, and it's the thing that cost them this season for all intents and purposes. And when you consider that and where the record sits right now, folks, the Pirates, if they would have won 3 of those games out of those 10 games that they lost during that 10-game losing streak, 3 of them, they would be 73-73 going into this series against the Royals, and at best have an outside shot at the postseason. But the feeling would be very different for a team that is 6 games under 500 right now. And that's all I'm saying. Is all you could just go and look at that and say if they would have just won 3 games, they could have lost all of those series still. They could have even gotten swept in 2 of them and won 3 games. And they would be a 500 baseball team right now. Now, if you listen to my show yesterday, where I discussed the comments that came out pregame before they swept the Marlins, that Derek Shelton was going to be back next year, that adds to that a little bit. Because you start asking all these questions, and if you watch this team as much as I do, and you watch this team as much as other people do and diehards do, the record matters. It absolutely does. But it is most definitely not the be-all, end-all to anything unless you're in the playoffs. And even when you get to the playoffs, guess what? Those records go right out the window. For a team like Pittsburgh, who has been in the middle of a rebuild for, I mean, really since 2016 at this point, you're wondering when that record gets better. You wonder to yourself, what has to happen to get to that point? How do we get over that hump? Well, I'll tell you where the record does matter. They're 70-76 at the moment, but if they do improve record-wise, let's say 78 wins. It's not a bad number. 78 wins, not a bad number at all. 78-84. It means you were competitive for the most part of the season, which they were. The next year, all you're saying is that you have to be 6 games better to get to 84 wins to flip that script. And remind yourself what I just brought up a few minutes ago. If they would have won 3 games, they would be a 73-73 ball club. The feeling on this podcast, the feeling amongst fans, and the feelings, honestly, amongst the team would be so different if this team was 73-73 right now. Really and truthfully, it would be just a much different feeling based off of how things are going. I am talking about a 3-7 stretch in the course of that 10 games that would just drastically change everything. Even add one more win to that, 4-6 in that stretch. They'd be 74-72. So that's where the record right now indicates that they haven't grown that much, but they have. This is a team that's needle is moving in the right direction. It is a team that has real talent on it that can propel them into a postseason spot eventually. It just is a matter of it all coming together and eliminating these long losing streaks that they've had over the past 2 years that have effectively taken them out of the race before they could even think about staying in it. And again, if you get to 78 or 79 wins, then going into 2025, all you're really asking for out of the Pirates is to get one series or maybe two series better. Look back on this season and say, what if they would have won that Athletic series? What if they would have just won 3 games in that 10-game stretch instead of losing all 10? What if they didn't trot out a Sunday lineup on every third game of a series? These are questions that you could think about, because this is what I've been saying the whole time. The gap for playoff teams versus non-playoff teams is really not that substantial when you come down to the number that matters, which is the record. It is not always the be-all, end-all about the story, but it is the be-all, end-all as far as results. And this is a results business. So if you can get better results down the stretch of the season, like I talked about yesterday and why that would matter, it's a big deal, because then all you have to go and tell yourself is we have to be 6 games better, 7 games better, maybe. And that's a lot easier said than done. And we'll discuss it a little tomorrow, more in depth when we talk about the Royals, because the Royals have kind of done what the Pirates are trying to do. And that's going to be a fun series to watch over the weekend. But something that also has changed this year is Oneil Cruz going to center field. How's it working so far, and what's his future at the position? We'll discuss on the Locked On Pirates podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Pirates is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. And one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks, because it's gone when September ends. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. You can also play Prize Picks along celebrities like Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Don't we love guarantees? Prize Picks, run your game. And folks, welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. After making this your first listen of the afternoon, make sure you go listen to Locked On MLB with Paul Francis Sullivan. He's ramping everyone up for the postseason, getting ready for postseason baseball, and covering everything going on in the world of Major League Baseball as it pertains to you and as the postseason approaches. Pirates will not be partaking in the postseason in 2024 unless something absolutely drastic happens. This is baseball. A man can hope. They're not mathematically eliminated yet. Getting there. Getting there. That magic number shrinks by the day. But, you know, this has been a year for the Pittsburgh Pirates that, like many of years for baseball and the Pittsburgh Pirates as it pertains to them, usually don't go the way you think they're going to. I mean, before the season started, we were talking about this bullpen being an absolute monster of a unit. We were talking about Henry Davis and his potential growth. We were talking about Jack Sawinski being a potential 30 home run guy. None of that's happened. Some things that change, you know, can work out good. Some of them don't. One of the good ones so far is Oneil Cruz moving to center field. Now, there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of chatter surrounding O'Neal Cruz whenever this decision was made, considering the comments that were made by the general manager about 8 days before, saying that he was the shortstop of the future and the plans were to keep him at shortstop. And then all of a sudden, no, he's moving to center field. It's a pretty big change, don't you think? It's a pretty big deal to see a guy go from the shortstop position to center field, but it's also in baseball, not something that we haven't seen, especially recently. Fernando Tatis Jr. won a Gold Glove Award in right field and was formerly a shortstop. Jackson Merrill was formerly a shortstop. Mookie Betts has played the outfield and shortstop. So it's not something that's very unprecedented in this day and age to see guys' positions change very drastically. And for a guy like O'Neal Cruz and what he offers this team defensively, you go back and you look at shortstop, for instance, and what he was doing this year. He only had a -2 outs above average, or -3 outs above average at shortstop, according to StatCast, which, you know, the defensive run saved and the errors and stuff like that is going to kind of fluctuate, and that's going to be what's talked about, which I understand. I get it. But you already see that he's a 98th percentile player as far as arm strength. He's around the 37th percentile in fielding run value. So, you start looking at that and you say, the errors are worrisome that he had at shortstop. Kind of lackadaisical at times. Some of them just kind of trying to force things. But advanced metrics, like the one I just told you, would tell you that he is a just slightly below average defensive player. And with his bat and what that does, especially advanced wise with the bat speed and average exit velocity, expected slugging, barrel rate, hard hit rate, I don't need to go through that with O'Neal Cruz. You already know that O'Neal Cruz is a phenomenal hitter. He's actually having his best season at the big league so far, leading in every single statistical category as far as his splits go and his slashes go. But so far in center field, folks, he's had 25 attempts in center field to make outs, a 96% success rate, with the estimated success rate being 90%, so a plus 6% success rate. You like to see that. And at the end of the day, when you consider what O'Neal Cruz has done as far as being a center fielder, you look at the sliding catches that he's made, you look at what he's been able to do at the position. And there was a play the other night that he made in center field where the catch probability was like 45%. And he found a way to just make it look easy. It didn't even look like he was really giving that much effort to catch the ball, and he just went and caught it. That's what he did, and that's what O'Neal Cruz is going to continue to do in center field. I think the future is bright for O'Neal Cruz in center field. Now, when I say the future is bright, I do want to preface the fact that I'm not saying that O'Neal Cruz is ever going to be a massively plus Gold Glove defender in center field. But between the arm strength, the speed, the athleticism, he has the ceiling to be a very good defender out there. If he can learn how to ball track, which he already kind of has. Mind you, he's also already played the outfield before in his career in the minor leagues. So if he can ball track on top of learning how to manage the guy standing in the outfield with him in left field and right field, then he's going to be just fine. Now, the lasting impact of this is that, sure, the Pirates have taken care of center field now. O'Neal Cruz is the future of that position, bar none. Yeah, that's not completely eliminating a guy like Jack Sawinski, but more than likely you'd see Jack slide to right field in a kind of duo with Brian De La Cruz. So you wonder, okay, you filled the center field gap, but now what do you do with shortstop? Isaiah Kiner-Falefa does fine there. But, and he will be back in 2025, do you want Isaiah Kiner-Falefa being your starting shortstop? I don't know if that's something you really want. And I think that at this point, and this is something I want to talk about more in depth on this show at some point, probably in the player review series, IKF is kind of a very good insurance policy for what's going on in the infield now. Because you have guys like Ke'Bryan Hayes that you don't know how his health is going to go. You're not going to see him the rest of 2024. You don't know how healthy he's going to be in 2025. And you don't know how often that back is just going to continue to derail his career. But at the end of the day, of all the defensive positions that IKF can play, I don't know if you want it to be shortstop. So I think that you'd like to see him move to third base. I would prefer it. In shortstop, you can find something. Maybe it's Liover Peguero, who I've been saying needs to be up here because he's on his third year on the 40-man and about to be going to his fourth, and you need to get looks on him and make a decision. They haven't done that yet. Nick Gonzalez, I like him at second base a little more. Jared Triolo, defensively, just fine there. I don't know how much I trust the bat, even though he's been playing really well as of late. So O'Neal Cruz's move, yes, helped you fill a position that you've been trying to fill since Starling Marte was here. And I think that O'Neal Cruz will more than fill that position. But now going into the offseason, you really have to wonder what the Pirates are going to do at shortstop. And it's a question that they're going to have to answer. If they answer it with IKF, so be it. I just don't really like that kind of decision. But we'll see what the Pirates decide to do. And I think O'Neal Cruz has a very bright future in center field. I think he's going to be phenomenal at that position. And I'm very excited to see how things shape out for O'Neal Cruz and the Pittsburgh Pirates as far as center field is concerned for him. And I've liked what I've seen so far. I just have. And the Pirates, mind you, have found some hidden gems this year. Be it from the trade deadline, be it from waivers, be it however they got them. Who are those guys? And what are their potential impacts in 2025? Today's episode is brought to you by Tonal. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase at tonal.com. Because for those of us who thrive on getting stuff done, including workouts, which I recently started doing again, every minute counts. That's why you need Tonal, the smart strength training system that takes the guesswork out of working out so you can make sure you're making the most of every rep. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps get you stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. Tonal learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move with detailed progress reports. They even create personalized program and workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's like having your own personal trainer at home with you, as Tonal will optimize every workout just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive, digital weight to advance your training techniques. From professional athletes to the mom of three, Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your Tonal purchase with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off to get your strength going today. And welcome back, everybody, to the final part of today's episode of Locked On Pirates here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every day. The season is coming to a close, but that doesn't mean you can't listen to the Pirates on the go. Make sure you go to the SiriusXM app and type in Pirates, and you can listen on the radio on the go as the Pittsburgh Pirates face off with the Kansas City Royals this weekend. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, every season, you kind of have that player, that acquisition that kind of takes you aback and you say, whoa, this guy's actually playing pretty well. Pirates have had a couple of those this year. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I'll start with him at the trade deadline. Not a guy that was really on my radar much as a player that I thought that they could get. Has had the best offensive season of his career this year. Adequate defender, has been one of the best defenders in baseball for a very long time. Really, at the end of the day, if he can just be a 260, 270 hitter for you with the defense that he offers you, be it wherever it is, folks, that's a phenomenal addition to this team. And you already have heard him become kind of a fan favorite already because of his comments about 2025. And he will be here. And I think he's a very good presence to have. I think he's going to be very nice to have in this locker room. I think, again, as long as he can just be a consistent enough hitter and be consistent defensively, great addition by this team that I never saw coming. Brian De La Cruz, he'll be here a while. We'll see what Brian De La Cruz can eventually become. Very streaky guy at his core, but when he gets hot in the outfield. Defensively, not all that great, but not terrible either. The arm obviously can hold guys on base pretty well for the most part. So that's what you like to see from Brian De La Cruz. But as far as not really trades, but more acquisitions via waivers, Dennis Santana, folks. Oh my gosh. Dennis Santana has had quite the quiet season for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Obviously a former New York Yankees reliever, and comes over here, 28 years old. Folks, the ERA is not great. I mean, he has a 4.2 ERA in 64 and a thirds innings, but over his last 30 games, he has a 1.27 ERA in 35 and a thirds innings pitched, and he's allowed 5 earned runs in 30 games. In his last 15, he hasn't allowed an earned run. He's only walked 3 guys and struck out 19. And you go back to those 30 days, 44 strikeouts, or last 30 games, 44 strikeouts, 7 walks. His whip in the last 30 days is a .88. And I mean, you continue to look at the game logs and everything with Dennis Santana since the All-Star break came, and he has just been one of the best pitchers for the Pirates. I mean, he had 2.4 ERA in August. You look at a .66 ERA in July and has not allowed an earned run this year either. Or in August, or in September. Sorry, this year. Has not allowed an earned run in September. So he's a guy that you look at and say, whoa, where did he come from? But you get these all the time. And Dennis Santana, you look at next year, I'd like him as a middle relief option next year. I think he works perfectly in that scenario. I think it's something that could work out well for him and the team. And you never know. Maybe he ends up becoming one of your best relievers. Maybe he does pan out as a very good middle relief reliever that can get you to the back end of that bullpen that you hope can be a lot better next year. And then probably the biggest one I'd say is Joey Bart. I mean, Joey Bart has been a revelation of sorts this year. Coming over from San Francisco, obviously was in the shadow of Buster Posey's retirement. But what a year Joey Bart has had. An 838 OPS, 13 homers, 42 RBIs, and just 210 at-bats. So he's been very, very good, way above his career averages, former number 2 overall pick in 2018. And you look at all that, and you see what, you're dealing with Henry Davis having his struggles and his issues, Eddie Rodriguez being out this year, and then, of course, Yasmani Grandal not really being the future. This is nice. And Joey Bart, it's pretty easy for his potential impact next year because he's just going to straight up be the starting catcher when the season starts next year. He just is. I mean, he's going to be the guy that you're going to see behind the dish more often than not, starting for the Pittsburgh Pirates as the starting catcher. And what a find it was. And you just hope that he can continue to move forward with that. You hope that he continues to be a very strong option as a catcher and just opens up the possibilities that the Pirates have at the catching position. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Pirates podcast, as you always do here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. My name is Ethan Smith. Find me on Twitter and social media at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates as it pertains to you. Find this show on Spotify, Odyssey, Google Play, and, of course, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, wherever you could find your podcast. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow to preview the Royals series and talk about more things. But until then, we'll see you on the flip side.